As the figure in the doorway advanced, its glowing eyes locked onto mine. A suffocating dread wrapped around my chest. The air grew heavy, thick with an invisible malevolence that gnawed at my sanity. The asylum's walls seemed to close in, warping and shifting as a voice, neither human nor beast, whispered in my ear. "You're next." The asylum loomed before us like a beast from some long-forgotten nightmare, its weathered stone walls bathed in the cold, silvery light of the moon. The once grand structure was now a ruin, a labyrinth of decay and despair that had been left to fester in isolation. Rumors of inhumane experiments, spectral apparitions, and the screams of tortured souls had surrounded this place for decades, but those were just stories. At least, that's what we had convinced ourselves as we crossed the threshold into darkness. Our team of 4 was an odd mix of skeptics and believers, each drawn to the asylum for different reasons. Emily, the psychologist, was here to debunk the myths, to strip away the supernatural veneer and expose the cold, hard truth. Ben, our tech expert, armed with an array of gadgets, sought logical explanations for the strange occurrences reported here. Alex, the youngest, full of bravado and eager to prove his mettle, treated the whole ordeal as an adrenaline-fueled adventure. And then there was me, the leader of this motley crew, a seasoned paranormal investigator who had faced down many a ghost story but had never seen anything quite like this. The air inside the asylum was thick with a scent of mold and decay, a stench that seemed to seep into our very pores. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the soft rustle of our footsteps on the cracked tiles. The corridors twisted and turned, each one leading deeper into the bowels of the building, each step taking us further from the world of the living. The walls, once white, were now stained with age, their surface marred by strange symbols and words scratched into the plaster by hands long since turned to dust. It wasn't long before the asylum began to show its true nature. Shadows danced at the edges of our vision, flickering like candle flames in the corners of the rooms. The very air seemed to pulse with a low, guttural hum, a sound that was more felt than heard, a vibration that resonated deep within our bones. The first to feel the effects was Emily. At first, she tried to brush it off. "Headaches," she said, brought on by the musty air and the stale atmosphere. But as the hours wore on, it became clear that something far more sinister was at play. Emily's sharp mind, always so quick to cut through the nonsense and get to the truth, began to unravel. She spoke less and less, and when she did, her words were disjointed, her sentences trailing off into nonsense. Her once vibrant eyes, always full of curiosity, now stared blankly ahead, as if she were seeing something the rest of us could not. She muttered to herself constantly, the cadence of her speech taking on an otherworldly quality, as if she were repeating some ancient, forgotten language. Ben, too, began to change. The man who had always prided himself on his rationality, on his ability to find logical explanations for even the most bizarre phenomena, was now lost in a world of his own making. He spent hours hunched over his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard in a desperate frenzy. When we tried to speak to him, to bring him back to reality, he would shush us, insisting that he was close to finding the source of the disturbance, close to uncovering the truth. But the truth he sought was nowhere near the realm of the rational. His words grew more paranoid by the hour, filled with talk of electromagnetic anomalies, of interference from forces beyond our understanding. His eyes darted around the room, as if expecting to see something materialize out of the shadows. Alex, once so full of life and energy, was a shadow of his former self. His laughter, once a source of comfort and camaraderie, had turned into a chilling, echoing cackle that sent shivers down our spines. He would wander the halls, his eyes wide and wild, as if searching for something just out of reach. He spoke of seeing faces in the darkness, of hearing voices calling his name from the depths of the asylum. At first, we dismissed it as his overactive imagination, a byproduct of the stress and the fear that had taken hold of all of us. But as the hours dragged on, it became clear that Alex was no longer entirely in control of his own mind. I tried to keep the group together, to maintain some semblance of order, but the asylum had other plans. It was as if the building itself was alive, a malevolent entity that fed on our fear and despair, twisting our perceptions and warping our minds. We were not merely investigating the supernatural. We were becoming a part of it, absorbed into the very fabric of the asylum's dark history. We stumbled upon a hidden chamber, a room that had been sealed off from the rest of the asylum. The door was heavy, rusted shut, but with a concerted effort, we managed to force it open. The room inside was pristine, untouched by the decay that had consumed the rest of the building. The walls were white, almost glowing in the dim light of our flashlights. A large, circular table dominated the center of the room, its surface covered in metal restraints, rusted but still ominously functional. In one corner, a cart stood laden with surgical instruments, their sharp edges glinting in the light. As I explored the room, I felt a chill run down my spine. There was something deeply wrong here, something that went beyond mere physical discomfort. I could feel the weight of the past pressing down on me, the echoes of screams and the whispers of the damned. I found a loose floorboard near the table, and underneath it, a small metal box. Inside were notes, handwritten and yellowed with age, detailing a series of horrific experiments. The notes described methods for breaking the human spirit, for reducing a person to a mere shell of their former self. They were a blueprint for madness, a guide to creating monsters out of emptiness. As I read the notes, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The asylum was using us, replaying the horrors of the past on new subjects. We were not here to uncover the truth. We were here to relive it, to be consumed by it. The asylum was alive, a parasite that fed on our sanity, and it had us exactly where it wanted us. I heard a sound behind me, a faint whisper carried on the wind. I turned, my heart pounding in my chest, and saw a figure standing in the doorway. It was cloaked in shadow, its eyes glowing an eerie red. It was not a ghost, not a hallucination, but something far worse, a manifestation of the asylum's darkest secrets, a creature born of suffering and despair. The battle was no longer about escaping the asylum. It was about surviving it, about saving what little remained of my team's sanity. We were trapped in a living nightmare, and the only way out was through the darkness, to confront the evil that had taken hold of this place and banish it once and for all. But with each passing moment, my companions slipped further into the abyss, and I feared that I might be the next to fall. As the asylum's horrors closed in, I knew our time was running out. The final battle had begun, not just for survival, but for our very souls. Will we escape the clutches of this malevolent force, or will we become part of its twisted legacy forever? Stay with us, like, comment, and share your thoughts on this descent into darkness.